My previous tenant, Mrs. J, was a single mother of 4 children who had fallen on hard times due to her ongoing medical issues. When she first moved into my rental property in Baltimore, the city's assistance program covered 100% of her rent and water expenses to help her through her difficult circumstances. However, as time went on, the city's program underwent changes, and Mrs. J was informed that she would need to start contributing $75 per month towards her housing costs, starting in January 2024. Despite her best efforts, she found it challenging to come up with the additional funds each month. In April, Mrs. J informed me that she was going to move out of the property by the end of the month. I, while saddened by the news, understood her predicament and began preparing for the transition. Mrs. J had not found a new place to move into, and I had not received any further communication from her. Concerned about the situation, I reached out to City of Baltimore and was told Mrs. J failed to find a place to move to. She didn't say she was still searching for a suitable home for her family. By the beginning of June, Mrs. J had not paid her portions of the rent for April and May, despite reminders from me. Growing increasingly worried about the situation, I sent Mrs. J a final notice, stating that if the outstanding rent was not received by June 10th, I would have no choice but to begin the eviction process. To my surprise, Mrs. J responded me that she had already moved out of the property. I requested a final walkthrough to ensure that everything was in order. She agreed to meet me at the property on June 6th. She informed me that there were 6 pieces of furniture still inside the house, and she was trying to arrange to move them out. Concerned about the state of the property, I asked Mrs. J to remove the remaining items and clean up the premises. Mrs. J assured me that she would take care of it promptly. However, when I returned to the property on June 6th, I found that no progress had been made. The furniture was still inside the house, and the yard had not been tidied up. Mrs. J was nowhere to be found, and I was left wondering about the next steps to take. With no communication from Mrs. J, I decided to extend the deadline for her to clear out the property to June 9th. I hoped that she would fulfill her promise and prevent any further complications in the eviction process. Unfortunately, when I visited the property on June 10th, I was dismayed to find that nothing had changed. I realized that Mrs. J had abandoned the property without fulfilling her responsibilities. I knew that I had to take action to protect my investment and ensure the property was returned to a suitable condition for future tenants. I contacted the City of Baltimore to inform them of the situation and began making arrangements for the removal of the remaining items. Upon receiving high estimates for junk removal services, I decided to explore other options for dealing with the abandoned furniture. I posted an advertisement on Facebook Marketplace, offering the items for free to anyone willing to pick them up. The response was overwhelming, with several individuals expressing interest in the furniture pieces. Over the course of a few days, most of the furniture was claimed by new owners who appreciated the opportunity to furnish their homes at no cost. I was relieved that the items had found new homes rather than being discarded as junk. However, there were still a few pieces left behind that required professional removal. To address the remaining items and the general state of the property, I hired a junk removal service to clear out the house and yard. Despite the majority of the furniture being taken by new owners, there were still some items that needed to be disposed of properly. The junk removal service arrived promptly and efficiently cleared out the remaining belongings, leaving the property clean and ready for the next steps. As the cleanup process was underway, I realized that the property required more than just removal of abandoned items. There were repairs and maintenance tasks that needed to be addressed to restore the property to its former condition. I contacted contractors to assess the property and provide estimates for the necessary work. During the assessment, the contractors discovered that there were full loads of clothes inside the washer and dryer. I really can't believe how people like her can afford such extravagant things. What kind of human beings are in her family?